What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking through the DSA 2022 match play between Dean and Jere here at Slaughter Park. Right off we have our usual hole one. You should be familiar by now, but it's about a 90-meter hyzer, OB left, right, and long. Dean likes disking up usually to some sort of distance driver here. Make sure he covers that distance. Jere here is a new gun on the scene. He has a lot of power, so he's throwing a pig here. By the looks of it, both of them have putts up there. As we see here, Dean, he left it a little shorter than I would have expected. About a 10-meter putt and just chains out high left. Jere's a little closer. I'm going to guess this is about a 7-meter putt here. Just barely misses low right. And we have a push on hole one. So for those that aren't familiar with match play, to win a hole you have to basically score better than your opponent. And then you get 1 point for that. You don't get more points for scoring 2 or 3 better. Dean plays a safe hyzer on hole 2 here. Now Jere looks like he's throwing a mid up the gut, straight at the basket. A lot more risky play. Overturns it a bit. This puts Dean in a good position here. He just has to play another safe hyzer, pitch up to the basket, and hopefully take his par. Executes perfectly. Now Jere here has to throw in basically to have a chance. He's going to try running this. That's really hard to do with the trees there in the way. That puts Dean up 2. And no, excuse me, Dean up 1. And we're moving on to hole 3, which is the easiest hole on the course. Simple little hyzer. Dean pins it and puts the pressure on Jere here. That was most likely Dean's justice, and Jere, I know he likes throwing a berg here. Looks like he skied it a little bit. And actually ended up pushing OB long. Yep, and as you can see off to the left, Jere's disc was on the path. So they're picking up and moving on to hole 4. Now that's Dean 2 up. Hole 4, our first par 4 of the day, about 150 meters. Dean looks like he's throwing his sapphire here and getting sneaky through the trees on the right. Should be in a fine spot to play for a birdie. Jere looks like he's overturning it again, hitting some trees off to the right side, landing short of that little cross path, as you can see. Playing some sort of flex sidearm. Looks like he has a long putt for his birdie. Now Dean can put the pressure here again, if he could get up and down. And it looks good. Jere's still out, so that means Dean must have gotten at least a little bit closer. Jere not connecting for the birdie, and this leaving Dean with another opportunity to go 3 up now. Let's see if he can convert. Yeah. Hole 5, we have a 93-meter backhand turnover or sidearm. This looks a little lower than Dean's usual line. Hard to tell how close that got to the basket. And Jere likes playing this sidearm. Looks like he skied that a little bit, ending up in the woods early right. That's really the one place you want to avoid on this hole. As you can see, there's lots of little twigs and stuff. Looks like he's lining up a little floaty bid here. We'll see what he can do. Not much more than a little pitch out. Dean has this weird little Anheuser putt with those branches blocking the right side. Oh, never mind. Ends up hitting the branches, but leaving them both with tap-in threes anyway, so another push for the hole. Moving on to hole 6. So here, we actually had a little accident during a storm where a basket got broken, so we're playing a safari hole from the tee pad of 6 to the basket of 7, playing as a par 4. It's about a 220 meter par 4 where you have to throw a big backhand hyzer and then a backhand turnover or sidearm hyzer to the basket. Yeah, that looks a little bit early on that corner and ends up kicking straight down. And as you can see from earlier on hole 4 when it was really wet, this grass, even though it looks lush, it's still muddy and very slippery, and yet it slips a little bit. Sidearm ends up cutting to the right into the bushes into a pretty bad spot. This is Dean with the opportunity just to throw a safe little backhand out into the field. Here we see Jere throwing his third out from the trees. In a fine spot, hopefully get up and down there for 5. Dean ended up leaking a little too far right. Trying to get creative with a backhand roller here. Not a bad effort. Those bushes are really hard to play from on the right side of normal hole 7. And since we are playing a safari hole here, there will be one alternate hole, beginner hole 16 for those that are familiar with it. Now Dean to match. Looks like both will be pushing the hole with a bogey. Dean has a little bit of a putt left, but that's no problem for him. And Jere with a little bit of a shorter putt. But these can be nervy though during match play. Hole 8, 112 meters, OB right and long of the basket. Dean really likes playing this flex shot up the gut. Just a little short of the basket. Now Jere has the power to play this pure hyzer. Kind of play close to that right side tree. Just didn't really commit to the line here and ended up towards the hill off to the left. Now Dean has this tester putt to see if he can make some magic happen. Gives it a little jumper, has the perfect height, and narrowly misses. Must have thought it was in. And Jere has this touchy downhill putt with that OB behind the basket. It's just so hard to commit to that putt, knowing that if you hit metal, it's most likely going to skip over the path and go OB. Hole 9 is our second par 4, coming in at 208 meters. You just want to crush a hyzer. Really try avoid contending with the trees long and right. Dean plays that fine. Jere with that power gets to unleash a little bit here. And that's in a perfect spot. What is Dean lining up here? Looks like he was a little bit further out than he would have liked and tried crushing a roller. That leaves him with another really long putt, about the same distance as hole 8, maybe a little bit longer. And Jere looks to be close enough to be throwing his pig again. That's really his bread and butter. As it looks like he parks the hole. Yeah, you can see Jere's just off to the left, about 1.5 meters away from the basket, so Dean has to make this. And that's Jere clawing back 1 point. So I believe that's Dean up 2, moving into hole 10. Touchy little woods hole. Looks like Jere pulled it a little bit further right than he would have liked and possibly tagged the trees off. They might have kept an inbounds though, which would be very important here. I believe Dean likes throwing his Pathfinder here. He likes that middle gap, which I like too. Looked perfect from the tee. We'll see where that ended up soon. As you can see, the ground is still really muddy. And Jere has to putt actually off of these wood chip piles that would be spread out soon. Unfortunately, doesn't convert. And Dean also has to deal with this tough footing. No problem for him though. Taking that one right back. Jere hole 11. We're playing a short summer tee pad. Barely caught the video of his drive, but looks like he parked it. Just played this hyzer, and I actually ended up missing Dean's drive. Now I do believe he stayed inbounds. Had this little spinny putt here. And Jere's drive landed so close to the basket that he just picks up. Taking back that point. Hole 12, 96 meters. You have 2 initial gaps that you have to hit. And then hyzer out before that OB long comes into play. Jere looked like he threw it a little bit too high, contending with those branches on the left side of the second gap. Normally you want to try to play a little bit of a flex shot as Dean's trying here, but just overcorrects and ends up hitting that tree. And I know from personal experience this is a really tough place to be. As you can see, you don't have much left. And at this point Dean's throwing 3. And he's still trying to just get out of the woods somewhere to where he has a putt. Jere has a long birdie putt. Looks like another 15-meter putt with OB behind the basket. Just gives it a safe bid, knowing that he's almost guaranteed a point here. And Jere claws back 1 again. So hole 13, 85 meters. One of the really hard wood shots here. It's this touchy backhand turnover where you want a late flip. Jere likes playing a sidearm, usually a little bit safer play, avoiding that left side OB, and also mitigating the tree kicks. Dean's playing that backhand turnover and looks like it's tracking perfectly towards the basket. Hard to tell where it ended up off the camera, but we'll find out soon. Jere's left with a little 25-30 meter sidearm hyzer. Looks like he sawed that off a little bit. And Dean's drive's in a pretty good position. A little awkward with the bush off to the left and some branches hanging over in his way. Tries giving it a little spinner. And unfortunately chains out. So at this point, Jere has to make this to basically tie the hole, knowing that Dean can pick up from there, and makes the putt. Dean with a little formality here. Short little putt. We're getting down to the wire, Dean being only 1 up, and this is where the pressure really starts mounting. Hole 14, another big hyzer. Jere has a little bit of an advantage here, being able to play a little higher and wider. Just a little safer with that OB. Looks like he pinned it. Again, hard to tell from the camera angle, but we'll find out soon. Now Dean usually plays a little bit of a lower line. And that was a little too close to the tree to be comfortable, but he left himself with a putt though nonetheless. Oh, hitting the band. And that was most likely to tie the hole again. Yeah. With all the power that Jere has, this hole really has become this fairly simple hyzer, just playing it out wide. And I think he tied it up there, putting them at even through 14 holes. Hole 15 again, you have OB left, right, and long, super touchy. Jere likes throwing his pig again here. He just skied that and ended up OB left actually. So that leaves Dean in a position where he can just play safe. He's just pitching up what looks to be a justice to the center of the fairway. Pretty stress-free golf. Another little simple hyzer. All he has to do is just get up and down and all but guarantees a point on the board. And this means Jere has to make his putt to tie the hole. Tries giving it a bid, but just floats a little high. And that puts Dean up 1 again. Going into hole 16, our longest par 3 on the course, coming in at 135 meters with OB right. And with Dean's power, it's fair to say that reaching the basket is almost impossible, so he tries playing a roller and seeing if he can get a little bit of extra distance from his usual air shot. Jere does have the power, however, to get to the basket, but looks like he just hyzers out early. And this leaves Dean with a little bit more pressure to try and get up and down. He's played this shot probably thousands of times, and you could see from all that experience that he really has that shot dialed in. Jere coming out of the woods. Gave himself a putt, but left it maybe a little bit longer than he would have liked. Especially coming down the stretch here. No problem there though, catching left side, but stays in nonetheless. And Dean again with a little tap in to tie the hole. And now we have this alternate hole, since we had to skip normal 6 and combine that. So we have about a 70-80 meter straight shot here. No OB. Dean just pulls that lower right, and he knows that this opens the door for Jere to tie it back up. This really is one of the must-gets. And that looks like a really nice shot from Jere. Looks like a little bit of an ace run there, actually. None of them seem to be that close to the basket, actually, so this could be interesting here. Dean with about just outside circle 1 putt. And since this is one of the beginner course holes, there is no OB, so that is why we see Jere putting from over the path here. And we did agree to this before they teed off. So Dean with a little bit longer of a comebacker. 5-6 meter putt. And call it good. Being the gentleman that he is, he picks up Jere's discs and just gives it to him. So hole 17, 73 meters. It really is a sidearm shot. And Dean's not the most comfortable with his sidearm, so he pitches a putter just straight through the gap. And just lets Jere do his thing. Looks like Jere played that perfectly with what I'm imagining is a justice. And Dean's just checking there how close Jere is to the basket, and he's parked, meaning that he now has to run this to basically keep that 1 point lead going into 18. And here we see that Dean's really feeling that pressure, knowing that if he doesn't make this, they're going to be tied. And Jere's been picking up momentum on the last few holes. Gives it a valiant effort. And as Dean says here, they're tied going into 18 now. And I know Dean personally said that he felt it slipping away a little bit towards the back nine. Just a couple of mistakes costing him. Hole 18, 120 meters, OB left the whole way, and also right with the 3 Mando trees where you have to play to the left, taking out that big hyzer. Jere usually throws his FD here, and it looks like it's tracking perfectly towards the basket. Really putting the pressure on Dean here, meaning that Dean has to go all out here. He basically has to try to get that birdie. It's a little wide out of the hand. With Dean's disc sliding out of bounds, that unfortunately ends the match here for Dean, meaning Jere won. They battled it out. And a huge thanks to both of them for letting me come out and film this in the first place. And adds a little bit more pressure and more fun for everybody else here who's watching along at home, even though this is a little bit overdue. But if you liked what you saw, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and hopefully we'll get some more content out for you soon.